Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines. We're pleased to have on the show Judge Trudy White. She's a judge on the 19th Judicial District Court. Prior to that, she was a city court judge. And Judge White is going to talk to us about the differences of being a judge in city court versus the district court, and also discuss her very interesting life. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Judge Trudy White.
Want to learn the secret to big savings on TV, internet, and phone? It's bundling your services with Cox. When you bundle with Cox, you get digital cable, high-speed internet with Power Boost, and telephone, all for one low monthly price. That's 3 fantastic services at one low price that will make you smile. The secret is out. The more you bundle, the more you save. So get a whole lot and save a whole lot when you bundle with Cox.
Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have on the show today Judge Trudy White. Judge White has been elected in 2009 to the 19th Judicial District Court. Judge,
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
We're really happy to have you. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself. You have a really interesting history.
Well, I'm a native of Baton Rouge. I graduated from McKinley High School, went off away to college at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Absolutely. Came back to law school at LSU, and I graduated in 1981.
I think you also have some advanced studies at
Advanced
Harvard and
studies
elsewhere?
at Harvard School of Government and at Kellogg's School in Northwestern.
And what was that focusing on, that education?
That was public policy issues, and at Kellogg's School of Management to increase my knowledge because I was an executive in management.
And then your employment history. Then you started working, as I understand it, as a staff attorney for the Department of Revenue.
When I passed the bar in 1981, I worked my way up as a staff attorney in the Department of Revenue. I was promoted to chief attorney to the Child Support Enforcement Program. And as the primary thing that I did there, which I'm so happy about, we started and implemented the federal program of income assignment.
Which is, explain that to the folks, because that is fantastic what you accomplished there.
The federal government at that time had a mandate that the states put into place an involuntary program where income could be seized from absent parents for the support of minor children. So,
for example, if a fella gets a lady pregnant, they have a child, he is clearly the father, either admits it or is established by court order, hearing, and he's ordered to pay child support, but he doesn't. That means what?
Well, he doesn't have to clearly be the father. If the woman applies for AFDC assistance, then the state gets involved to establish parentage. And if they're able to do that, then a wage assignment order is also attached to that process. And
so the bottom line is the government then, if they find out someone owes that fella money, they can basically garnish the wages.
Well, they garnish the wages to reimburse the state for the money that it's paid out.
Which ultimately is good for all taxpayers.
Absolutely.
It's a wonderful program.
Sure.
Go ahead and tell the folks also a little bit about just your personal family history. It's really interesting.
Well, I am the middle child, and what's so interesting about my family history?
I thought what was interesting is you have done a lot of research, for example, about. In fact, you had mentioned in the resume I was reading that you had grown up in segregated schools.
Yes.
And that you've kind of lived through the growing pains that our nation has gone through to the point that we now have a black president, a black mayor in Baton Rouge, black judges. And so it's just really neat that you have experienced the growth of the nation in that way. And so I was curious about, for example, you had done a program or some research, I think you said hundreds of hours.
Yes, well, my mother asked me to go to the courthouse to get a copy of a judgment of possession for her father. She wanted to put some property on Section 8. And so when I went there, the file had been checked out. And in calling the attorney, I asked to find out why he had checked out the file. He said he was doing some title research for the school board. And I said, what about? He said, well, your grandfather was a member of the United Negro Recreational Association. And I said, well, what was that? And then he said, this was an association that back in the 40s, they purchased property so that Negro children would have an opportunity to have recreational facilities. And I said, okay. And I said, well, can you send me a copy of the judgment of possession? And so I was already in the courthouse. I ran, the name United Negro Recreation Association, found out that they had sold the property to Bray, or donated the property to Bray. But there was what is called a reversionary clause. And I do believe that this is one reason why I was destined to go to law school. The reversionary clause said that if the property was ever transferred for a purpose other than recreation, it would revert back to the United Negro Recreation Association. Well, I went back, had the charter reestablished, intervened in the lawsuit, and as a result of negotiation, because the school board could have eventually, straightened out the title issue through eminent domain, but they had already displaced the children at McKinley Middle. The school was 2/3 torn down, and it would have been another year for construction. But I was able to negotiate an arrangement where we were able to do a documentary of what transpired and all the history behind the Brooks Park story. As this was going on over like a 2-month period of time, the ancestors would wake me up around 3:20, between 3:20 and 3:30 every morning, and they would say, tell my history, preserve the history, tell the story. I never wanted anything from me, but I felt obligated to tell the story.
And actually, as I understand it, Louisiana Public Broadcasting actually aired.
That's right. It's called the Brooks Park Story. Troubled Waters, Baton Rouge is Troubled Waters, the Brooks Park Story. And it is available by purchase through
And the bottom line
LPB.
is, it was your grandfather and some other folks getting the funds together to create recreational facilities, which included a swimming pool.
Which included the swimming pool, because back then in the 40s, Negro children couldn't swim in the whites-only swimming pool. Now, there was a lot of good black folks and a lot of good white folks, because the good white folks wanted to further segregation during those times. That was the times. And so they also raised a lot of money to support segregated accommodations, public swimming pools. And so it was fine. It was the way of the world back in those days.
Tell the folks a little bit about your professional life after the staff attorney stint and you moved up in the Department of Revenue.
Well, I moved up into the Department of Revenue, and somebody recognized my level of skill and knowledge, and I was appointed by 2 governors, Governor Edwards and Governor Romer, to assistant secretary positions at the Department of Revenue. And there again, I think I shined and proved myself worthy, and it was just an additional accolade in my legal career, because as lawyers, some litigate, some do appellate work, and we all have certain skills, and that was just one aspect.
And then ultimately you were propelled to general counsel for the department, is that right?
That's right. At one point I was general counsel.
And then ultimately left there. There was some litigation that ensued because frankly you were wrongfully terminated.
Yes, sir, in my opinion.
Well, and so also in the opinion of everyone who heard the case, as I understand it.
That's right. I was supported throughout. Ultimately settled the case, and the rest is history. But for the wrongful termination, I may have been comfortable in that job and might not ever have put my eyes on pursuing a judgeship. But I want to tell you, I'm thankful that that happened. It humbled me. It put me more in touch with regular folk. I was a political hot potato. No one would hire me. And so what I turned to was something that I didn't know, but something that I learned to love. And this was another way of doing public service. I was able to assist in the building of about 4 houses in a nonprofit organization in Zion City. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
So you poured yourself into the community. Let's talk about that on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines and Judge Trudy White. We'll be right back.
Everybody loves on demand from Cox. Well, did you know the love's about to grow? Soon, your on-demand menu will have a whole new look, making it easier than ever to find your favorite shows, access hundreds of movies, and thousands of free programming choices, even HD. Just like that, so you can watch what you want to watch, when you want to watch it. It just keeps growing better every day. See what's coming on demand and get more out of what you're into with Cox Digital Cable.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have on the show today again Judge Trudy White with the 19th Judicial District Court. Again, Judge, thanks for coming on. You were talking about at the end of the last segment how because of those trials and tribulations, frankly, of being wrongfully terminated from your position at the Department of Revenue, you kind of poured yourself into your community.
I sure did.
Explain to the folks how that changed your perspective and frankly motivated you to move on to the positions that you now hold.
Well, sometimes when you pursue something, it's you pursuing it. But when I decided to run for, after prayerful consideration, decided to run for a city court judge, it was as a result of the community asking me to consider running for city court judge.
Really? You were approached. It wasn't something that you thought of doing. They came to you and said...
That's right. I was working for about a year and a half for less than $1,000 for the Zion City Community Development Corporation. Then the Lewis A. Martin Legal Society, which is the Black Lawyer Association here in the Baton Rouge area, they asked me to run a pro bono clinic in the Leo S. Butler Community Center.
Pro bono, for the folks, means you're representing the folks for free.
For free lawyer, yes. And I was the only paid lawyer. I was the so-called executive director.
Making $1,000 a month?
Right at $1,000.
So a whole lot less money than you were making at the Department of Revenue.
I was doing the secretary, I was the janitor, I was the receptionist, I was everything. But they saw how I dealt with people. And the telephones came from many people, and the consensus was, we like your spirit, we like how you treat people, and we think you need to consider running for city court judge. At that time, Judge Don Johnson had moved up to the district court bench, and the seat was vacant. And I had just run in an unsuccessful race 3 or 4 years earlier for a family court. And I said that I would never run again.
It's pretty tough, isn't it?
Yeah, and certainly having lost a job, the wrongful termination, I had no money. And so it was really a leap of faith because I now had the backing of the community. And so we came out there, and it was a 3-person race. I made it to, I was top in the runoff, and then I won at the second election.
And when you say it was a community effort, bottom line is it was because you didn't have funds to buy commercials or billboards or anything else.
Well, absolutely right. Certainly not when I ran against the incumbent for district court.
And so you were elected in what year to the city court?
I was elected to city court in 1999 and served for 8 years.
And you were the first black female judge elected to that particular district?
For that division, correct, Division B. Judge Freddie Pitcher was the first, and then Judge Don Johnson, and then I was the first female in that seat.
Explain to the folks what's your stint as a city court judge? What were the typical duties that you had to do there?
As city court judge, our jurisdiction in the civil arena was cases up to $20,000. Of course, we also handled small claims, duty, and criminal cases. It was only criminal misdemeanor cases. The largest fine was $1,000 for DWI, and the maximum penalty for jail was 6 months.
And the bottom line also is some of the evidentiary rules I think are lessened a little bit, but it's pretty much like practicing in the 19th JDC. It's just that the amounts in controversy are capped at $20,000 and the penalties for criminal conduct is capped.
That's correct, that's correct. Now the rules of evidence are the same with the exception of small claims.
Right, that's what I was thinking of.
Yes. But the quality of lawyering is great, was great, and certainly you get another level in district court because there's so much more at stake. A person's life, their liberty, and obviously there's unlimited jurisdiction in the civil arena. I know
a lot of folks would say the city courthouse and building structures are a whole lot better than the 19th JDC, but bottom line is you're dealing with a whole different level of caseload and work.
Yes, sir.
And money, and like you said, life and limb.
Yes, sir.
Tell the folks how it was to run for the 19th JDC.
Running for the 19th JDC was tough.
How did that come about? What motivated you to do that?
Well, after 8 years, You can only make that widget so many more times, so many different ways. And I had exhausted everything that I wanted to do and hoped to do in city court, and I was up for a challenge. And so sometimes in life you have to know when it's your season, and I felt it was my season to run for district court judge. A term is 6 years. I could have waited 6 more years, or I could have done it now. And so I could have done it when I chose to run, and so I chose to run.
And my appreciation is that this time the community didn't necessarily come behind you, meaning I guess the power brokers in a way, that it was more, you felt motivated from inside.
Well, I felt that it was something I had to do. I felt that I could do the job better, and I felt that it was my time.
And you were running against an incumbent, somebody who had held the seat, I think, for almost 20 years.
20 years. That was the difficult part, because I have, and still have today, have a lot of respect for Judge Calloway.
Sure, we all do.
So it really wasn't anything personal.
In fact, he had served his country. I think he had a Purple Heart from serving in the military.
Quality guy.
Good man.
Quality guy. And it's not to, take anything against him.
Sure.
It's just that I felt that the voters needed to have an opportunity to decide. When we get on the bench as judges or elected officials, I think that we ought to let our public service and what we do speak for ourselves. I'm not afraid if someone wants to take me on. I'm not welcoming it. But if they do, then I feel that my record should stand for itself, and the voters should vote me up or down.
So how did you go about running for that particular judgeship?
Well, I knew I had to take it to the people, and I knew that I was very active in the community on numerous boards. I had established numerous relationships, and quite frankly, I walked. I walked the whole district. I knocked on doors. I only raised $7,000, which is unheard of.
Meaning it's not very much money.
Not very much money. Not very much money, but I took the Lord with me. I wore out a pair of tennis shoes. My feet still are not the same today. And sometimes prayed for rain, because I had an excuse not to walk if it rained, but I did what I had to do.
And the bottom line is you were elected, but it was close.
It was a close election. It was a close election. A little too close for my taste.
And as I understand it, the war chest, so to speak, of the opponent was well over $100,000.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very interesting. Well, let's talk about, now that you are on the 19th JDC, you had a lot of training, obviously, in the 8 years that you were at City Court, but as I understand it, there's an educational program that new judges for district courts go to. How did that help?
Well, the Supreme Court considered me for purposes of the district court as a new judge, and so they brought us all the newly elected district court judges to New Orleans and gave us training for about 3 days. One of the things that I did really appreciate that they did, I didn't know that I would be so appreciative, was that they assigned us a mentoring judge. Excellent. And that was unheard of on the city court side. And my judge is, mentoring judge is Judge Jules Edwards out of Lafayette, and he's been fabulous in terms of assisting me. And of course we have CLEs, continuing legal education trainings, where we go to. And then you jump in and you swim. That's right. That's
All right, let's talk about that on the next segment, please.
Yes, sir.
This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines and Judge Trudy White. We'll be right back.
Did you know that high-def programming from Cox is free? That's right. Cox gives you a ton of HD channels for no additional cost. Your favorite HD channels, your local channels in HD, and even more HD choices with On Demand, and more are being added every day. So get a whole lot more HD for a whole lot less with Cox Digital Cable. Some people still don't have On Demand from Cox.
Impersonators.
Who you calling an impersonator, pal?
No. You insulted him a little bit.
A little bit?
A little bit.
Is there a reason you all aren't using On Demand from Cox? Because I thought you guys would love access to thousands of movies and shows.
Stars don't like to watch
Their own movies. It's tacky.
Did I mention a lot of it's free?
Free is hot.
Boom.
On Demand from Cox. perfect for almost everyone.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. Again, I'm very pleased to have on the show today Judge Trudy White. She is a judge for the 19th Judicial District Court. Again, Judge, thanks for being on the show.
Yes, sir.
We were talking about first you were in city court for 8 years, then you got elected by working hard and rubbing elbows with the folks, and they chose you over an incumbent, and now you're at the 19th Judicial District Court. Very unique in that you are handling both a criminal docket and a civil docket. Explain to the folks how that happens, because that's really not the norm, is it?
It's not the norm. At the 19th Judicial District Court, although it's a court of general jurisdiction.
Which means you can handle both.
Yes. There is a seniority system. And so the more senior judges get to handle what they want to handle, and then when it trickles down, and I'm judge number 15th, I get what's left.
Low person on the totem pole.
Yes, sir. And so what was left was criminal. And so I wanted to do both. So initially when we started, I was able to work out an agreement with Judge Wilson Fields because he wanted to do both. And so we were doing like 2 weeks criminal, 2 weeks civil. When I'm on criminal, he's on civil and vice versa. But then as of February 1st, he elected to go completely civil. So I still have a civil docket and a criminal docket. So I'm the only one as of February 1st handling both.
Good gosh, that's a lot of work too.
It is a lot of work.
Explain, excuse me,
especially for a new judge, because you want to do it right.
Explain to the folks how it works, because we were discussing the roles of your staff, and you said you have a really quality staff, but everybody could always use more folks. Explain to how a criminal case is prosecuted in your court.
Well, of course, you have assistant district attorneys who are prosecuting the cases, and most of the cases are instituted by Bill of Informations. We have a assigned public defender, a 3-person team, and well, 3-person prosecutors, and so we schedule cases for arraignments and motions and trials. And so that's generally how it is, but we have such a volume that it's not, you know, the court dates are not soon enough for most folk, because once they're in jail, they have to sit there until, and if they're unable to bond out, they have to sit there until their case is ultimately resolved.
So the bottom line is someone is arrested for a crime and the district attorney, assistant district attorney, or prosecutor files a complaint or a bill, as you indicated, and then they come in front of you. They have to plead, I guess, to the charge that that's been lodged against them.
Yeah, they're arraigned, and when the court explains the charges that are pending against them, possible pleas are not guilty, guilty, or no contest. And most people say not guilty. And so if it's a felony case, we'll reset it. We'll set it for motions. And if it's a misdemeanor case, we'll set it for trial. But the motion of the trial date may be 2-3 months out, and so they have to sit in jail if they are unable to bond out.
Explain to the folks the difference between a misdemeanor charge and a felony charge.
Misdemeanor is punishable usually by a term of a fine of $1,000 or $500 or less, not to exceed that amount, and jail not to exceed 6 months. Felony cases are anything other than that, and the ultimate penalty can be death.
Serious stuff.
Yes. Now we do have what is called criminal duty, and so I just got off of criminal duty last week, which is tremendous, because the police officers, any police officer, law enforcement officer that needs an arrest warrant, a search warrant signed, then they come and find me.
You're the one they call.
24 hours a day. They've gotten me out of churches. They've come to parties.
Woken
to my
you
home,
up, I guess,
3,
late
4.
at night.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's part of my responsibility as a judge. And any crimes that happened when I'm on duty week, those are crimes that will be assigned to my offenses, which will be assigned to my division. If it is a felony, you know, a homicide or something like that, the assistant prosecutors will be the ones prosecuting the case. So they actually go out to the scene to observe firsthand what's going on.
Explain.
And certainly we have a remarkable district attorney, Hillamore.
Sure.
I don't know how he's able to do it, but he's at almost every crime scene.
Well, the volume, as I've been reading the paper here recently, seems to indicate that crime is increasing. Is that kind of your experience, that you're seeing more and more cases come before you?
I'm overwhelmed.
Really?
I'm overwhelmed. A lot of aggravated rapes, a lot of drug cases, second-degree murders, attempted first-degree murders, and the pictures that we see and the testimony from the witnesses, it is, well, let me just say, I hope that the public will pray for the judges of the 19th, because it is taxing. It is very taxing.
Well, thank you for your service in that regard. I don't know how y'all do it, frankly. How many other judges are handling the criminal cases?
We have 8 judges who are handling criminal and 7 who are handling exclusively civil.
And when we were speaking earlier, you indicated you're working 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours a day.
Yes, sir. Well, understand I'm a new judge, and I'm handling both criminal and civil, and I want to do both. So I'm going to put in the hours because it's so important. A criminal case, that's their own world. And so I have to get it right, or attempt to get it right. There will be times when I make a poor decision, but then that's what the First Circuit Court of Appeals is for. I do want to share with you this coming summer, in the month of July, Hill Moore, Tyrus Thomas Inc. and I will be sponsoring a crime scene investigation program that will be held at McKinley Middle. Well, it's a program that we're putting together, we're pulling together now for rising 9th graders. They will learn about DNA, fingerprinting, documenting the crime scene. The public defender and the district attorney, we will have a trial at the end of the thing. State police will be setting up the crime scene with the yellow tape and everything. So I'm actively involved. I hope that we can encourage these children to increase their analytical skills, their interest in math and science, so that they will become something instead of offenders.
I apologize. I interrupted earlier when you were indicating it's going to be held at McKinley?
McKinley Middle. Okay. Yeah. It's still in the planning stages, but we'll be up and running by July.
And as I understand it, you also, for years now, have been getting ladies who are incarcerated.
Since 2003, I do what is called the Miracle Believers Educational Tour, and I go into schools in the Baton Rouge area. We've done between 50 and 60 since then, where I bring women inmates, where actually the warden allows transport women inmates to the area schools. Even on yesterday, for the 6th year, we met with the Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce's leadership 2010 leadership class, and so it's a wonderful program.
And what ages are exposed to that program?
Well, leadership is the Baton Rouge Chamber; those are professionals, but we go into the middle and high schools.
And how is it received by the kids? I mean, it sounds like what you and the folks that are involved in this are trying to take preventative steps so kids can see the consequences of bad decisions.
Yes, we share with them what led these women into making the poor decisions that they made, and they can react. It's interesting when I go into the inner city schools, I ask how many people know somebody who's been to prison or is in prison, and almost 95% of the hands go up. But in your more affluent schools, about 5% of the hands go up. Well, so there's a need.
Fantastic. Judge,
yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you again. This is Locke Meredith and Legal Lines and Judge Trudy White. Thank you for being with us today.